Hello. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this 3-tier fake cake wall hanging with confetti, cherries, and a hook to hang on the wall. Hello. Okay, today I'm going to show you how to do a wall hanging. It's going to be a small, it's only about 10 inches tall, a wall hanging, and it's a 3-tier. So you're going to start out with an 8-inch foam, a 6-inch, and a 4-inch. And then you're going to take your hot knife. I actually need to replace this one. It's getting really dull, but they sell them on Amazon, and it's for cutting styrofoam. And you just heat it up and then slice the pieces in half. And when you get a hot styrofoam knife, it makes like no mess. Okay, so I do need to replace this one because they don't last too long. That's the only thing, unless you clean them after every single use, and I don't always have time to do that. So I replace them. And after they're replaced, after you cut it, it's gonna look like this. So it's 8, 6, and a 4. So you can start to see how the tier cake would come together. Okay, so then I poke a hole right towards the flat part, and this is to be able to attach each tier together. So I usually make a hole. You can make it with the styrofoam cutter, or you could just use these. These are like candy apple sticks found in craft departments, baking departments at your local store. So one of these I cut in half with one of these. Be careful, they're very sharp. And so, and I don't put them right on top of each other because we need 3 tiers. So if I were to put one stick on top of the other stick, and when I'm putting them together, they might bump into each other. Hopefully that makes sense. So I make them on opposite ends. Okay, so then after you make the hole, you put the stick in, you make sure it fits, then you use your hot glue. And you wait for that to dry for a little bit. Okay, you just want to make sure they're really nice and firm in there. And you have to wait for the hot glue to dry before you start stacking. Okay, next you have to line them up so that they're even. So I just kind of hold it up right in front of me, and I look on each side You know, this side, does it look like it has as much space as this side? You could mark it if you want to. And then does it look pretty flat, like even? And then there should be a ledge in the front. Okay, so I'm lining it up. Then I press down and everything looks even. Press down so I make a little hole. Just a little hole. Then I use my hot knife again and make a bigger hole. And my glue gun. Okay, so then I use my glue gun. I put glue in there. I put glue on each side. Line them up to make sure it looks pretty even and the glue is sticking on the inside. You can kind of feel it. And then you can always set it down, put something on top. Just to keep it in place and let the glue dry for a minute. And then you go on to the third tier. Okay, so here's the third tier. I lined it up. I made a hole. Before you glue it in place, you could always just stick it on the stick. Make sure it looks good. And you kind of just like maneuver it all around, hold it a little bit away from you. Make sure it's pretty flat in the back. Yeah, that's lining up pretty good. Okay, and that the edges are straight. You have about, you're even on both sides. This looks like about an inch on each side. And then you glue that in place. I put glue on the stick and then some glue on the side. And then you just press it. You just press it so the glue sticks and dries. Okay, after it's all dried, then you're also going to want to, you're going to put some hot glue right here on the seam. So it glues one tier to another. You just want these really secure. So you put a little bit of hot glue there, all the way across each tier. And then you're going to flip around, and if you see any like gaps, you can do it on the back too. Just a little bit. Like here's this spot right here. You can go all the way across if you want, just thin. Okay, and then you let that dry. Okay, so after this is all dried in place, next thing you just grab a foam board, which is really lightweight. The whole cake itself, wall hanging, can be hung with like a thumbtack, even a straight pin. That's how light this is when it's all finished, even with all the spackling and the piping that's going to go on. Very lightweight, which is nice. Easy to hang. So you just line it up on the foam board like this. And you trace it. Okay, then you have your traced cake right there. Hopefully you can see that. That's the outline of the cake. And then I cut it with a razor blade. Just watch your fingers. I cut it usually sitting on the floor with a razor blade. Then you're gonna glue it to the back of the cake. Okay, so now you have your flat back of your cake. You have foam board that looks like this in the shape of your cake. And you use your hot glue gun. I go through so many hot glue guns. They can't keep up with me. I use them till I break the handle, usually. Okay, and then you glue it on the back. And just try to make sure it's like aligned as best you can. You press down, and then what I usually do is I get 3 rubber bands or so, something like that. Okay, and then you can always trim. You see how this little edge is not quite right? You can trim it after it's glued in place. Now I just wait for it to dry, and then we'll move on to gluing the edges and putting the spackling on.